Joshua, I really love this book because number one, this book is for fighters, and I'm not a fighter per se. I was talking to, I believe it was Annie yesterday when I was talking about my sisters, and I was saying that I showed her a picture of my sister Kay, and I said, just look at her. I said, she's so peaceful, and her eyes, they're so loving and so warm. And I said, she's just the purest thing ever. And then I said, well, and then there's my sister Elaine. And I said, well, I don't know if there's anything or anybody that's any more pure than her. And I said, but somewhere along the way, I've got Kay on one side, I got Elaine on another, and I'm in the middle. I'm not the middle child, but just to give you some framework with what I'm saying, I'm not a fighter. I don't necessarily like to fight, but I will fight if you mess with the wrong thing. Amen. And don't act like you wouldn't, because you would. Sometimes you got to get an attitude, but I have a sweet side, but if you mess with the wrong thing, there's something that comes over me that's going to take you out. In the name of Jesus, of course. Yep. I'll get you, and then I'll pray for you and ask God to heal you. But the book of Joshua is for fighters. It is also a book that is about moving Israel into and settling into the promised land, or the prime real estate that God had already given to them. However, it was not going to happen without a fight. It would be nice if God would just give us a promise and then we could possess that promise without having to fight for that promise, but very rarely does it happen that way. Most of the time when God tells us, this is yours, but he also says it is yours to possess. So you got to know it's yours, but you also know that you got to possess it, which means that you got to take somebody out of it before you yourself can move into it. So taking possession of what God has promised is usually a process, and it almost always involves a fight. And often I can tell the closer I get to taking possession by the fierceness of the fight that I find myself in. Does anybody witness with that today? When the fight gets more fierce and more fierce, and you feel like you got it under control, but then when it all gets out of control, you have to just pause before you totally lose it all and say, you know what, I know what this is about. I know, I've figured this out. I've been through these things long enough to know that there is a purpose behind this fight. And so when God promises you something, he takes you through a process, and it does not just happen overnight. Most of the time, when God promises you something, there is a process. Somebody say process. Now, the minute he gives it to you, it is yours. But it is yours to take dominion over. It is yours to possess. And there has to be a strong commitment inside of you that says, whatever I got to do, whatever I got to stop doing, whatever I've got to learn, whatever I've got to unlearn, whatever I got to go after, whatever I have to stand still and wait for, whatever I've got to change, whatever it takes, that's what I'm willing to do, because I want to obtain and I want possession of what God has given to me. Anybody feel like that in here today? If it means that I've got to move outside of my comfort zone, I've done it before and I can do it again. You never get what God promises you by just laying low and still inside of your comfort zone. Sometimes you have to be ready to move out of your comfort zone, but it's something that just has to be done, because while I'm grateful for where I am right now, I understand that it's going to take more for me to get where I'm going than where I am by receiving what I have right now. So I might have to be uncomfortable. I might have to confront some of my own traditions. in order to get what God has for me. I might have to break some bad habits. I might have to step out of my culture. I had to step out of my culture to pursue what God had given me. I had to unlearn some things that I had learned, but I never, ever, ever want to be stuck between what God has made me thirsty for and the traditions of men. I never want to be caught between my thirst and my traditions. And there have been many times in my life that my culture wanted to go one way, but my thirst was calling me to go another way. Anybody ever experienced that? My culture, everything in me says this is the right way, but the closer I got, the more miserable I got, because I realized that my thirst was different than my culture. And so I had to make a decision to make some changes. So I'm saying that to say, don't be shocked if God starts requiring you to learn a new culture or to have a new way of thinking when it comes to possessing the promises of God. Well, Pastor, I'm open. I gave my heart to Jesus a long time ago, and he moved inside of my heart. And so I learned early how to say yes to change. I learned early how to be flexible since the Lord has taken over my heart. Well, listen, I'm going to tell you something. Jesus may be living in your heart, but your great-granddaddy is living in your DNA. Okay? I said your great-granddaddy is living down inside your DNA. So sometimes, Paul warned us about this, that there is a war that is going on in your members. What does he say? When I would do evil, when I would do good, evil is present with me. He said, listen, there is a fight. It's going on inside of me, and it's going to go on inside of you. And it's not always easy to step outside of habits or outside of behaviors, or outside of mindsets. Many of you had to step, you already in the process, because you had to step outside of a mindset just to walk into this church and give me the opportunity to speak to you every Sunday. You had to break shackles. You had to break habits. You had to break stuff you've heard. How many of you are happy that you made that choice? Hallelujah. But I'm telling you, I'm saying that just to say that you are already on the move. And most of the time, it is a fight if we're going to obtain all of the promises that God has made to us. We are going to have this yes down in our spirit. We're going to have to fight, even when we realize that the fight isn't coming from an external force, but the fight is coming from an internal force. See, the fight is not always about you or me getting the victory over an external enemy. Oh no, much of the time the fight that is going on is about us. See, when we talk about getting the victory or winning the victory, we think about, I got the victory on my job. I got the victory over my neighbor. He's been about to drive me crazy. I got the victory over my coworkers, over the people I go to school with. I got the victory. I've been fighting my way up the corporate ladder, but God has given me the victory. But I'm not talking about the kind of victory over things like that. I'm talking about the kind of victory over internal territory. I'm talking about the kind of victory that you got to get when the war is raging inside of you. I'm talking about the kind of victory that you get when you realize that the fight is not about anybody else, but the fight is happening in your life. And so just because, I want you to understand this about people, just because nobody is blowing up your house, and just because nobody is blowing up your vehicle, and just because nobody has got a gun to your head and is holding you hostage, that does not mean that you are not under attack. I said it doesn't mean that you're not under attack. Anybody feel like you've been under attack in the last 2 years? I mean, it's been an attack. And it doesn't mean also that just because maybe you didn't succumb to a crisis, that doesn't mean that you aren't still mentally challenged by it. It doesn't mean that you are not going through emotional things over something that happened a long time ago. Doesn't mean that you don't have physical attacks in your life. It doesn't mean that you're not fighting some kind of financial battle. You may not have succumbed to COVID-19, but I'm going to tell you, every last one of us knows that our lives have been affected by COVID-19. So there are a lot of people that never tested positive for the virus, but their lives have been turned upside down because of it. So the point that I'm trying to make to you today is, I don't care where you are in life. It really doesn't matter. Every stage in life has its own fair share of trouble. Every stage. We look at people with all kinds of money and we think they cannot be fighting what I'm fighting. Well, they may not be fighting what you're fighting, but I tell you one thing, you can be guaranteed that there is a fight somewhere that is going on in their lives. Every season or every stage of life has its own storms, and you cannot go so high that you get above the storm, and you can't go so low that you get beneath it either. From the wealthiest to the poorest, from the owner to the tenant, from the employee to the employer, from the lender to the borrower, every stage of life takes you through its own set of tests. Many of you said, if I could just be, back in the day, many of you said, if I could just get to the place where I could go out to eat at least on Sunday, I know that I'm gonna be in a better place in my life. Now here you are, and you still got things that are fighting you. You still have trouble. You see, the person that's sitting next to you today, I mean, they may look like the absolute cutest person in the world, but I promise you, up underneath their cute is a little bit of ugly somewhere. There's some kind of trouble that is brewing in their life. There are some issues that have got to be dealt with in their life. They might look good, they might smell good, but don't let the look or the smell confuse you, because up underneath all of that package, somewhere there is something that God could bring up, and it would bring them down to their knees. Now, we can't tell it because the fight isn't always happening on the outside. The fight is happening on the inside. Not only is the fight on the inside, but the bleeding is on the inside. The brokenness is on the inside. The exhaustion from the battle is on the inside. The hopelessness, the struggle, the strengthlessness, the wrestling in the midnight hour, all of that is happening on the inside. And here's the thing, that's why somebody that looks perfectly normal can turn around and become a mass murderer, and we don't know how. Well, that doesn't look like somebody that would do that. No, because it's not about what's happening out here. It is about what is happening on the inside. And I'm going to tell you, there are people by the hundreds of thousands that are on the verge of imploding because of all of the warfare that is going on I didn't say exploding, I said they're imploding. Their whole worlds are coming crashing down. Some of you are watching me today. Some of you are here in the building today, but nobody even knows how close you are to being on the verge of losing it. You don't have to say, man, I get it, because your wife, your spouse, your friend is looking at you. But you know, we have learned how to kind of just keep moving in life. About to die on the inside. But we're saying, hey, how are you? Grace and peace. Praise the Lord. Can I get you something to drink? Can I do anything for you? What you need? You need anything? How may I direct your call? Welcome to the Potter's House of North Dallas. How may I direct your call? Oh, no, I don't mind. I don't mind at all. And all the while, nobody knows what's happening up under the surface of your life. Nobody knows. You're at home sitting in your lazy boy. You got your feet propped up. You're relaxing on the outside, but they don't know that on the inside you're boiling like a volcano that is about to explode and spew over and affect everybody that is around you. When we are reading about Joshua, we are reading about things that I'm getting ready to read about Joshua. We're going to read about things that were happening outwardly. But as I read about what is happening outwardly, I want you to think about yourself, and I want you to think inwardly. Okay? You got that? Joshua chapter 10. I want to go there for a few verses of scripture. Beginning at the 14th verse. I've preached up to this point where they went in and they were tired, but they fought, they won the battle. Even got to the point where they were so exhausted, he just looked up and said, I want the sun to stand still. And God honored his word, and the sun stood still. He was taking out all kinds of people, all kinds of enemies. But in the middle of that fight, he realized he wasn't in the fight by himself, because he looked around and he was like, I know I killed that one, and I know I killed that one, and I know I killed that one. How did that one die? It's because God had opened up the heavens and was throwing boulders down and wiping out the enemy alongside of Joshua. Tell me God won't open the heavens and help you in your fight. He did it for Joshua. So we're a little bit further along now, and he says, talking about that whole thing where he told the sun to stand still. Goes on in verse 14, and he says, there has never been a day like this one before or since, when the Lord answered such a prayer. Surely the Lord fought for Israel that day. When Joshua and the Israelites returned to their camp at Gilgal, God was the one that fought for them. During the battle, the 5 kings escaped and hid in a cave at Makkedah. So they wiped out all of these people, these peripheral people, but they still have the 5 kings of those 5 armies. They were hidden in a cave, and when Joshua heard that they had been found, he issued this command. He said, cover the opening of the cave with large rocks and place guards at the entrance to keep the kings inside. The rest of you continue chasing the enemy and cut them down from the rear. Ooh, that's why you got to be careful. Don't be at the rear of anything. The rear of everything ends up being the one that gets snatched out. Be careful sitting all the way in the back of the church. He said, cut them down from the rear. Don't give them a chance to get back to their towns. For the Lord your God has given you victory over them. So Joshua and the Israelite army continued the slaughter and completely crushed the enemy. They totally wiped out the 5 armies, except for a tiny remnant that managed to reach their fortified cities. Then the Israelites returned safely to Joshua in the camp at Makkedah. After that, no one dared to speak even a word against Israel. I guess not. Then Joshua said, now remove the rocks that are covering the opening of the cave and bring the 5 kings to me. So they brought the 5 kings out of the cave. The kings of Jerusalem, the kings of Hebron, the king of Jarmuth, the king of Lachish, whatever that is, and the king of Eglon. And when they brought them out, Joshua told the commanders of his army, come and put your feet on the king's neck. And they did as they were told. Don't ever be afraid or discouraged, Joshua told his men. Be strong and be courageous, for the Lord is going to do this to all of your enemies. Then Joshua killed each of those 5 kings and impaled them on 5 sharpened poles where they hung until the evening. Here's the last verse. And as the sun was going down, Joshua gave instructions for the bodies of the kings to be taken down from the poles and thrown into the cave where they had been hiding. When then they covered the opening of the cave with a pile of large rocks, which remains there to this very day. What had been their hiding place had now become their burial grounds. Woo! Your God is a mighty God. See, Joshua was a fighter, and he fought. He had a great instinct to fight. If you wasn't careful, he would just jump out and cut your head off. And then he'd say, now who was that? Joshua, he was a fighter, and whatever he was in a fight with, he would overthrow anything and everything. Why? Here's why. The hand of the Lord was on his life. And when the hand of God is on your life, it results in undeniable success. I said it results in you having undeniable success. So what we are looking at here is a coalition of 5 nations that have got these 5 kings, and they've come together to fight the children of God and Joshua. They came together to fight the Israelites. They didn't want them to possess their promise. And there would have been 6 of those kings and 6 armies. But because the Israelites were so bad, being led by Joshua, and they were conquering everything, every city in their path, when they got to Gibeah, the Gibeonites said, hey, no, we ain't fighting you. We ain't even trying to fight you. We like you. We your friend. What do you need? You want water? What do you want? What do you want? So the Gibeonites said, no, we are going to change sides. And because we're smart, if we can't beat you, we're going to join you. So Joshua has got all of these other enemies on the run. The 5 kings were so scared that that's where they climbed up in the cave. What about that? A leader that will climb up in a cave while you are out there having to fight for your life. God, help us leaders to understand, if the people are fighting, you got to fight too. You got to fight for the people, all right? Are y'all following me? And they had climbed up in this cave. But there, you know what I love about this right here is those kings were the ones that were chasing and on top of Joshua at one point. But there does come a point in the fight where God will turn things, and what you used to be under, now you find yourself on top of. And I don't know who that's for, but somebody needs to hear me today that God is getting ready to turn that fight. And when he does, you will have your foot on what used to have its foot on you. Woo! So the 5 kings, they are hiding, and here's why they're hiding. They're hiding because they are losing the battle. And this is all taking place in Makkedah, and winning in Makkedah was vital. It was significant to Joshua. Joshua had to win there because Makkedah was known as the field of the shepherds. It was known as a place for grazing. It was known as a huge economic empire. Joshua had to win this fight. He had to win this particular battle, because if he failed to win at Makkedah, he would not be able to possess the promise that God had given to them. Because and they were shepherds there, and because they were shepherds and they had this bartering system that was set up, not only in this text are we looking at an economic force, but we are having to reckon with people. We are looking at a society of people who know how to maintain and how to sustain themselves with food because of the sheep. So keep in mind also that all of this is happening in the promised land. So the grass is green, it is flourishing, everything is fresh, it is filled with vitality. The water brooks are overflowing, and they are filled with fresh and clean water. This is prime real estate that the enemy is standing in the middle of, but it belongs to Joshua and it belongs to the children of Israel. So the problem here is that they lost it all a long time ago because previous generations had fled the land, and when they fled, other people began to move in and they inhabited what those the previous generations ran away from. And here's why that happened: because anytime you flee or anytime you run from a battle, you create room for somebody else to come in and to take over. Are you following me? So in essence, these 5 kings and all of their armies are squatters. Do you know what a squatter is? It's just somebody that has no right to be there, but they've been there so long that they're determined that they ain't giving up now. These squatters had taken control and they had taken possession of what really belonged to the people of God. I wonder how many squatters are sitting on things that really belongs to you, but you don't have what it takes to uproot them and get them out. Your promise is attached, so you got to get rid of the squatter so that you can possess your promise. They are squatters, and they're sitting on what belonged to God's people. And anytime you are trying to get back something that you lost, you better know that you are in for a fight. Listen, you better know that when you're trying to get your marriage back, there is going to be a fight. From getting your family back, there's a fight. From getting your integrity back, if you lose it, it's going to be a fight. From getting your child back, there's going to be a fight involved. From getting your finances back in order, it's going to be a fight. From winning your influence back, to get your passion back, to get your integrity. If y'all are sitting here waiting for it to just all come back, you can forget about that. Some of you are waiting because you lost a lot of it in the middle of COVID. And you're just saying, I'm waiting for that feeling to happen. I'm going to be all right. I'm just going to wait for it to happen. You can't wait for it to happen. You got to rise up in the name of Jesus and say, if we got to fight, then let the fight begin. It's hard to get, and don't forget this, it is hard to get an upper hand when you are in a fight with somebody who in the back of your mind, you are feeling like that maybe this fight is my fault. Maybe if my ancestors wouldn't have walked out and just left it, then I would not be where I am today. So you're fighting, but you're thinking, God, this whole fight could be because of me. This land had been promised to them. This was the promise of the Lord. And but hear this, and somebody needs to hear this today. Just because it's a promise to you does not mean that you won't have to fight in order to possess it. It was theirs, but they had to fight anyway. It was a divine assignment that God placed in their hands, but they had to fight anyway. It was destiny, it was purpose, but they still had to fight. He was chosen to seize that land, but it would still have to be fought over. He was anointed to do it, but there would still be a fight. He was gifted, but there still would have to be a war that was waged. Don't think that just because you are chosen, you are gifted, and you are anointed, that you will not have to fight. Don't think that just because God chose you and hand selected you and you are on the side of right, don't think that just because God has put favor over your life that it means you won't have to fight for your promise. No, nothing in life comes without a fight. For the kingdom of heaven suffereth violence, and the violent. Tell somebody, you better fight for it. You better fight for it. Woo. Now, I wish I could tell you that the moment God's man, the moment that God's chosen vessel, the moment that Joshua walked onto the land and put his feet onto the property and opened his mouth, I wish I could tell you that everything immediately fell into place, but that is not the case. He had conquered so much. He had won the peripheral battles. He had killed all of the armies. He brought all of them down, but those kings that went into hiding, they really had to be dealt with. And when they discovered where they were, I read it to you a moment ago, they asked Joshua, we got them, what do you want us to do? Joshua said, well, for right now, I just want you to put roll a stone in front of the cave. Just roll a stone because I still got fighting to do. I'm still in fight mode. So I want you to control that right there while I'm fighting this over here. How many times have you had to roll a stone in front of things that you had not quite conquered yet, but at least you put a stone in front of it? At least we haven't conquered it yet, but at least we put the stone up there and we got it under control. I haven't conquered it completely, but I do have it under control. I said I haven't conquered it yet, but I know where it is, and I got it. I see it for what it is, and I got it under control. And I ain't gonna let that mess up my momentum. I'm going after what I gotta go after, because I got some things that been chasing me. Now I got them locked down. I struggle with insecurities, but it's getting better because I'm getting it up under control. I struggle with fear, but it's getting better because I get it up under control. I have anxiety, I have anger issues, but I got it under control. Oh, somebody that knows God has helped you to at least get some things under control ought to holler right now and tell him thank you. Look at somebody and tell them, I'm still in a fight, but I got it under control. They were fighting 5 armies. They were fighting 5 regimes, and they were doing all of it at the same time. It's not like they're fighting this bunch and then killing them and then going to the next. No, they got all 5 of them coming, all 5 of the armies coming after them. But they're taking a deep breath simply because they know that they got the kings up under control. Roll a stone over it because I've got too much to do out here before I turn around and deal with what's in there. I know where they are. I know what they want to do. I know that I have to eventually confront that, but I'm grateful to the good Lord that I do have that thing on lockdown. I got it restrained. I got it tied up. Have you ever had to restrain what was going on over there so that you could finish the battle over here? Woo! Lord have mercy. For example, earlier this summer, I went upstairs and was looking in one of the bedrooms in the house, and I saw that there was a stain and there was a bubble in the ceiling. No homeowner likes to see bubbles in your ceiling. So eventually we watched it a day or so, and eventually the bubble broke, and it just messed up that whole little area. Well, I called in somebody to fix what was broken, but I found out I had to call somebody else, because though it was broken right there, though it was stained right there, though the problem was right there, it was way over there that problem originated. Woo! So the spot in the ceiling, it wasn't where it originated, but it was a warning sign. It was a red flag. You know, y'all see them red flags on Facebook and on Instagram. It's a red flag. It's a warning sign. Don't ever ignore the warning signs, because what ends up happening is you end up having to deal with a bigger issue. It showed up over here, but it was coming from over there. Y'all don't have to act like you know what I'm talking about. You went off on somebody over here, but the reason you did it was because of something that happened over there. How many times in your life have you showed up over here, but the problem was coming from over there? You got kids that are acting crazy in school, totally acting crazy. But before you take the time and put the full blame on the child, you might just want to examine the environment that you are raising them in. Hello? Because it's possible that's what's breaking out at school is coming from something that is happening at home. What's breaking out over here is coming from something that has happened over there. Joshua is in a fight with all of these armies, and he's fighting them because of the kings that were hidden in the cave. Those kings are the ones that built the army. Those kings are the ones that gave them the weapons. Those kings were the ones that organized. So he's over here having to fight something that really originated over here in a cave. And now that thing in a cave is so scared they are hiding. Look at somebody and tell them you got to get to the root of it. Get to the root of it. Whatever it is in your life, you got to get to the root of it. Sometimes before you can possess your possessions, there are certain things that you must get up under your control. Joshua, he wants to get some things under control. He wants to finish this fight over here. And he wants to finish this fight over here so he can get back over there and deal with what caused this fight over here to break out. Joshua, in other words, what I'm telling you is Joshua had something in his mind that he was going to go after. And I don't care who you are. I don't care how young you are. I don't care how old you are. There has got to be something in your mind, something in your spirit that you have made up in your mind. I am going to go after that. So wiping all these armies out was going to be a piece of cake for him, because at the end of the day, he knew he had something to go for and something to confront, and it was those kings that were in a cave. You got to have something in your life that makes you want to wake up in the morning. You got to have something that you're willing to fight for. You've got to have something that you're willing to say, yeah, challenge me because I'm up for the challenge. You got to have something that will place a demand on you. You have got to have something that you will go after. You got to have something that you will stretch for. You've got to have something in your life that you will absolutely reach for. Let me tell you something. When the manna, I was talking to Bishop Brady about this the other day, when the manna fell down from heaven, bread of heaven, feed us until we want no more. When the manna fell down from heaven, it did not fall inside of their tent. It didn't fall inside of where they were living. It fell on the outside. Lord, help me, Jesus. It didn't fall in their tent, but it did fall within their reach. Woo! Let me tell somebody in here today, do you only want it if it's easy? Do you only want it if it falls right on your plate? Or do you have the ability to say, God, I can reach for that? Everybody needs something that they can reach for. I'm battling depression, but I'm still going to reach for it. I'm battling discouragement, but I'm going to reach for it. I'm broke, but I'm reaching for better. I've hit bottom, but I'm reaching for a hand to help me get up from where I am. Look at somebody and tell them, I dare you to reach for it. We all need things in our life that will make us reach, things in our life that will make us stretch. Your body don't work right if you don't stretch it every now and then. We all need things in our life that'll make us pray, that'll make us hungry, that'll make us think. You need dreams that make you stretch. You need assignments that make you stretch. I don't need a friend that don't make me stretch. You need goals that make you stretch. You need counsel counselors that make you stretch. You need coaches that will get in your ear and say, you got this. I dare you to reach a little higher. I dare you to stretch a little further. Sometimes you got to step out of your circle in order to stretch. You got to step into a different environment. You got to step into a different culture. There is so much more to you than meets the eye, but you will never ever know it if you never decide to reach for something else. Look at your neighbor on the right and say, neighbor, it's time to stretch. Look at your other neighbor, say, neighbor, we don't have very long left in the year of 2021, but I declare to you that the rest of 2021 is time for you to reach. It's time to break your normal. It's time to come out of the box. It's time to raise the roof. It's time to shatter the ceiling. It's time to believe for more. It's time to go for more. It's time to reach for more. It's time to believe that God said He would do exceedingly abundantly above all I could. Go for it. Your kings, hear me today. Your kings are in a cave. Your kings are in a cave. This is time to go for it. Look at somebody. Tell him your kings are in a cave. What are you waiting on? Go for it. You are more than a conqueror. Go for it. If you don't get up and start going after something, you're going to sit there and die of old age. Sickness and disease will take over your body. But like the 4 leprous men, you got to make up in your mind that says, I am not going to sit here and die when I can move and live. Tell somebody, move and live. Oh, that makes me mad right there. If I'm going to die, I'm going to die reaching. If I'm going to die, I'm going to die pressing. I'm going to die stretching. I'm going to die seeing the impossible. I'm not going to sit here and die wondering, oh, what woulda, coulda, shoulda, might have, what might have happened. No, don't settle until you stretch. I dare you to stretch right now. Woo! Stretch your way out of today and into tomorrow. Stretch your way out of not enough into more than enough. Stretch your way out of sickness into healing. Stretch your way out of it. Woo. I'm preaching in here today. I said I'm preaching in here. Joshua, sit down. I need another 5 or 10 minutes. Joshua had the kings in the cave, and he was conquering everything within reach. Whew, I'm telling you, did you hear that when I said, your kings are in the cave? Go for it, go for it, go for it. Your kings can't stop you. They can't hinder you. They can't get in the way. Your God has put them in a cave. You better run for everything you want. Go for everything you've ever asked for. Go for what you believe for. Joshua has these kings and they're in the cave. He's conquering everything else. And yet it did not matter. I don't care how much he conquered them. I don't care how many people he conquered. I don't care how many enemies he subdued. I don't care how many enemies he brought down. He really could not be called the champion or the winner or a victor or a real conqueror until he had went back and confronted what was still alive in the cave. Whew. If all you do is fix the stain, but you never, ever, ever go back to the source that caused The stain. Come on, y'all. You're going to be painting that same stain over and over and over again. You're going to spend your whole life trying to cover up what you wouldn't correct. Y'all ain't got to say nothing. You'll spend your days continuously trying to cover up things that you would not confront. But sooner or later, somebody say sooner or later, you've got to go back to the cave and you've got to confront the king of it all. I said you've got to confront the king of it all. And if you don't do that, you're never going to be the winner. You can kill the army, but if you don't kill the king, y'all better help me. You can kill the men, but if you don't kill the king, you can paint the stain, but if you don't go to the source, you can demand excellence out of your children, but if you don't change the environment that you are raising them in, I know you're disappointed with the child, but if the truth be told, the child is just acting out here what they see going on in the house. So you've got to confront and kill the king of it all, because unless you do that, these kings will come out and they will raise up more armies. So you got to stop being in denial, and you got to make up in your mind, I got to confront this. I've carried it for years. I've carried it for months. I've just took it, but now I cannot take it anymore. It is unhealthy to not confront what needs to be confronted. It is unhealthy to not be able to verbalize what needs to be said. How can you who is so confrontational with everybody else, oh, you better not come for me, because I'm going to get you. You don't want none of this? Mr. Confrontational. You can confront everybody, but you never confront you never confront your hatefulness, your anger, your bitterness, your laziness, your judgmentalism. You never confront that dominant spirit that shuts everybody down, and now they die of a stroke because their blood pressure went so high, because they never felt that it was safe to open up their mouth and tell you how they really feel. It's time for you, if you really love them, give everybody a space to breathe, to say what is on their mind and on their heart. And the way that happens is when you start confronting yourself. Stop blaming everybody else. Confront what needs to be confronted so that you can recover what needs to be recovered. And the key to your recovery, hear me today, the key to your recovery is being willing to confront your kings. Don't you waste another day in your life going in circles. Look at somebody next to you and tell them, confront yourself. Don't you keep making the same mistakes year after year after year and blaming it on society and blaming it on this one and blaming it on your spouse or blaming it on the other. No, you have to confront yourself, because anything that you will not confront, you cannot conquer. Joshua said, okay, I've done all of that. Now I'm going back to the cave. Roll the stone away, because it's time for me to confront what I need to conquer. Woo! It's time to confront what I've been covering up. It's time to confront what I've had in hiding. It's time for me to finally confront what is standing between me and my promise. He confronted it and he conquered it. Whew, look at your neighbor and tell them, I've got something to conquer this week. Come on, oh, I didn't hear all of y'all say this week. I got something to conquer this week. That's why pastors preaching like this. That's why God has me listening. That's why I'm hearing, because I know beyond the shadow of a doubt, I got some stuff I've been sweeping up under the rug, sweeping up under the bed, locked up in a cave. I'm getting ready to go get it and confront it so that I can conquer it once and for all. He said to them, and roll the stone away. They rolled the stone away. They brought the kings out. And he called his guys over there. And he said, put your foot on the neck of this king right here. Put it on his neck. Put your foot on his neck. Put your foot on his neck. He had all of his men putting their foot on the neck of these kings. Why did he do that? I don't know for sure, but here's what I'm going to say. I say he did that because he wanted them to experience what winning felt like. Because if you ever get a good taste of winning, you refuse to lose anymore in your life. Look at your neighbor and tell him, I got my foot on some things. And every now and then, God will turn the fight in your favor to allow you to climb up on what used to be climbing up on you. Joshua could have easily just killed those kings, but he wanted his men to experience what success felt like. He wanted his men to know what it felt like to finally get to the root of it all. He wanted his men to know what it felt like to have your enemies up under your feet. He wanted his men to know what victory felt like. I don't know who I'm talking to today, but somebody is about to get that feeling. Somebody is about to get your foot on the head of something that's been trying to stop you. Somebody in this room is about to get the feeling of what going forward actually feels like. Somebody is about to get the feeling of what being more than a conqueror is. Woo! I can't preach it no better than that. Somebody should have jumped up at that moment and said, God, show me where to put my foot. Woo! And I'll close with this. But here's what I got to tell you before I close. There's something about feeling it for yourself. You can tell me about your success all day long. But until I feel it, I don't really understand it. I will never forget when I first learned to drive. Sit down for 2-3 minutes. When I first learned to drive, it's so long ago, I'm proud of myself for remembering. But it was Bishop that taught me to drive. So if you don't like my driving, he taught me to drive, and of all, really, he was just kind of, he knew I wanted to drive, and he wanted to date. So he thought, let me just take her and teach her to drive. I can spend some time with her in my car. It was his daddy's car, and it was a Pinto. Y'all remember what Pintos were? It was a Pinto, and it had a stick shift. So I'm trying to learn. I learned how to drive on a stick shift, okay? At first, he would tell me, okay, put the clutch in. And I'd put the clutch in, he'd say, shift the gears. But I'm gonna tell you something. He didn't have to tell me that for long. You know why? Because I started feeling it. Woo! I could feel when it was time for a shift. I could feel when it was time for a change. I could feel when it was time to move from one gear to another. Now, there is nothing like feeling it for yourself. Look at somebody and say to them, you got to feel it to know it. You got to feel it to know it. I was sensitive. I had to be sensitive because I was the one that had to change the gear, put the clutch in and change the gears. But once I started driving a car that just automatically changed gears by itself, I kind of lost my sensitivity. Why? Because I didn't have to have it like I used to have it because it was changing by itself. God help me to never lose my sensitivity to the point that I no longer need to shift gears. Help me to know when I need to shift them. God, help me to never lose my instinct. Help me to never lose my inclination. And I'm going to tell you something. You can read every book that's ever been written about prayer, but if you don't have an instinct to pray, you will never be a prayer warrior. You can watch every praise and worship video that there is to watch. You can learn what Shabbat, Barak, Tehillah, and all of those words mean. But if you don't have an instinct to fall on your face and cry out to God, you will never really be a worshiper. I said you will never really be a worshiper. So I don't care what God has done for you, and I don't care how far He's brought you, and I don't care if He brought you out of the clutch and the shift and put you in a car that changes gears automatically. Never lose your instinct. I said never lose. If it gets you around people that know how to pray, never lose your instinct to pray. I'm filled in a room with worshipers, but when it's all said and done, I've got an instinct that said He's worthy to be praised from the rising of the sun to the going down of the same. I will bless the Lord at all times. Oh, magnify the Lord with me and let us exalt His name together. But if you don't praise Him, I'll still praise Him because I know what He means to me. Woo! Yeah. So I'm done. But I want you to hear this. Don't sit down. You don't just stay up on your feet. I was sitting in my chair last night and I was thinking about Joshua as a leader. He could have killed them and he could have walked away and said, guys, that's how you do it right there. But these were men that had fought hard with him.
Yeah.
These were men that were in the thick of the battle with him.
Yes.
And he knew as their commander-in-chief, they had a victory. They needed a victory that they themselves could feel.
Come on.
And as I sat there, I was saying, God, please continue to bring people into my life that cause me, that show me, that teach me how to put my foot on things that I would have never put my foot on if it had not been for them. Help me to never take for granted. God, please continue to bring people into my life that take my feet to a higher horizon.
My God.
A horizon that I would have never known what it was like had they not taken me there. And when they can't do it anymore, help me to be the wind beneath their wings. And as a way of saying thank you for what you've been in my life. People that will teach us how to conquer things we would have never conquered, how to confront things we would have never confronted, how we can feel what it feels like to bring every enemy down and every king down, place them under our feet. Joshua took the time to allow all of those that were with him to get a feel of what being a champion felt like.
So good.
Those that were under him, he gave them an opportunity. Yeah, he had opposition, but he also had opportunity going on at the same time. Because that's just how it happens. I'm fighting, but I got an opportunity right here. That's just how it happens. But he, as a leader, he gave them the opportunity. Listen, how many parents are in this room? We're going to get the children's ministry up, I promise you, so help me. We're going to get it up. But if you're a parent in this room, let me tell you something. Take the time to listen to your children when they talk. Because if you don't listen to them when they talk, they will grow up not respecting their own thoughts. I said they will grow up not respecting their own thoughts. Don't be so busy that you can't turn your head in their direction when they're talking to you. My mama used to listen to me talk. What if she would have ignored me? Would I have grown up and never become a preacher? Would I have grown up being so inferior over every word I say? She was my first audience, and it meant something to me, and it meant something to her. Turn your face in their direction. Celebrate them, applaud them, and eventually they will grow into greatness. Help them to put their foot on the neck of their future. Help them to put their foot on the neck of their tomorrow. Give them solid ground to stand on tomorrow by stabilizing them on every level today. Pastoring at its best is standing up here Sunday after Sunday telling people like you, no, don't pick your foot up yet. Now, pick it up. Put your foot right here. No, not right there. You gotta do it this way. Don't move, don't move. It's me standing here saying, stand firm, you got it, you can take this. Come on, I know you've been through a lot, but you're still alive, and you're still alive for a reason. Gird up the loins of your mind. You're stronger than you know you are. You're stronger than you know you are. You can take more than you think you can take. You're breathing, aren't you? Breathe in, breathe out. That means you're alive for a reason. That means you got to fight for your future. I know it's been rough and I know it's been tough, but I'm telling you, you got to kill every king that would tell you, I'm going to give up and die now. Why would you get the victory in all of those areas and now not get the victory over this? Go back and confront every king so that you can have the full victory. Tell every devil in hell, I'm tired, but I'm still going to fight. I got too much at stake to give up. I got too much at stake for me to lay down. I got too much at stake for me to walk away now. I didn't go through everything I went through just to get here and lay down and die. Look at somebody and tell them it ain't happening. It ain't happening. I'm tired. I don't feel like fighting right now. But if you cross this line, devil, we are going to fight. I'm weary, but I will fight. I'm tired, but I will fight. I'm fatigued, but I will fight. I have really had it up to here. But if you mess with my promise, I want you to know that I will fight you before I let the devil have anything that is mine. Look at somebody and tell them, I will fight for it. So today I came to strengthen somebody that's been in a fight. You're tired, but look at your neighbor. Tell him you better fight anyway, fight anyway, fight anyway. I'm fighting exhausted, but I'm fighting. I'm fighting stressed out, but I'm fighting. I'm fighting sick, but I'm fighting. I'm fighting alone, but I'm fighting. I'm fighting and my body is racked in pain, but I'm fighting. Somebody watching me today, you're fighting. You got a broken heart, but you're fighting anyway. I lost my house, but I'm still fighting. He walked out and left me, but I'm still going to fight. My family is torn apart. My reputation is gone, but I'll stand right here and fight and ask God to bring it back to me, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. I feel like fainting, Pastor Brady. I feel like failing. I feel like giving up the ghost. But having done all to stand, I'm going to stand and fight. And I'm going to fight. And I'm going to stand. And I will see the salvation, which is the complete deliverance of the Lord. Not just the peripheral enemies, but I'm going to the root of every. And I take courage in the fact that if God is for us, I said if God is, do you know He is for you?
My God.
Your mama might not have been for you. Your daddy might not have been for you. Your first wife might not have been for you. Your husband might not have been for you, but God is for you. Some of you never had anybody for you all the days of your life. Well, I'm here today to tell you that there is a God that is for you. He didn't put you in the earth for you to lose. He put you in the earth for you to subdue and conquer. Woo! Look at somebody and tell them I'm a conqueror. You're standing next to a conqueror. He told me to subdue and to take over. And I'm going to confront every enemy so I can do just that.